Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Robbins, and welcome to LPLE from Dialogue FM. We're the podcast that lets you practice listening in English. We speak English slowly and clearly so that you can follow along and understand native English speakers more easily. I'm excited to help you improve your English listening skill, as well as help you learn new vocabulary, grammar, and idioms commonly heard in conversations among native English speakers. If you want to practice listening in English, then we invite you to join our conversation. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jesse.
Today, I'm very excited to receive another request from one of our listeners. Now,
that is so cool.
This request comes at a very good time for me and you. Why? Because if you remember our last episode, it was kind of a sad episode, right? It was a very difficult topic to talk about. However, this particular request from our listener is in Japan, IZ. She is going to force us to think happy thoughts. She's going to make us think about happy words. Her request is as follows. I'll read the message. Yesterday, I had an English lesson with my tutor, and I wrote an essay, which I think is fantastic. Then I found I used lots of words like enjoy, excite, and happy. These words are so common and easy that I use them a lot when I write or talk in English. But using them frequently makes my essay so boring. I would be appreciative if you could give us some advice when you have time. Well, this is a great question, and furthermore, it's going to force us to think of happy things.
Yes, good. Thank you, Ms. Iz.
Yeah. Happy, enjoy, and excite. First off, I think Jane, you and I can both relate to her problem, right?
Oh, absolutely. You mean in the sense of I really need to use another word here, or gee, this is boring, or yes, of course. But I think more in writing than in speaking.
Right. I think trying to increase our vocabulary, right, to broaden our vocabulary is something that anybody learning a second language or a third language or a 16th language is going to face. They're going to face the problem of learning how to use new words. So let's dive into let's explore different words for happy and excited. Just to give a few examples, I'm looking at thesaurus.com. So for anyone learning English, a dictionary is a book that has the meaning and definition of words, right? Thesaurus is a book, a reference guide that gives you alternative words for one word. So, for example, if I look up the word happy, the thesaurus is going to give me a bunch of other words that are similar to the word happy. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'll say one. Maybe Jane, you and I can go back and forth. I'll say one, and then if you have one, you say one, and give an example, and we'll continue from there.
Okay, I just want to give a word of caution. The key word you used about words in a thesaurus was similar, not the same.
Yes.
And
correct.
A lot of times the words you and I are going to come up with will not work in exactly the same context. So
that's great.
That's the tricky part. That's the really tricky part. And I have seen some very funny student essays where they have used funny or sometimes very confusing student essays where they tried to use a thesaurus. So let's get started and let's see what happens. You start.
Yeah. Okay, one word I use often is glad, G-L-A-D. So, for example, okay, good example here. When my friend is sick, so for example, Jane, if you are sick and I call you a week later and you say, "Oh, I'm feeling better," my reply could be, "Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you're feeling better." I could also say, "I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better." So,
yes, and both of those work exactly the same in that context.
Right. Happy and glad are both adjectives, right? So I am, the am is the verb. So I am happy that you are feeling better. I am glad that you are feeling better. Another example is, Jane, if you come to my house, I could say, "Oh, I'm so happy that you came to see me." I could also say, I am glad that you came over to see me.
And I could say, "I'm so glad you asked me," or I could say, "I'm so pleased to be here. I'm so pleased that I am finally seeing your chickens," for example. But glad and happy are the main ones that come up most of the time.
So why is that? So for I am happy, I am glad. The meaning in my head, those two words feel very similar. However, I would say that in glad, there's also an element, there's also a feeling of appreciation.
I agree, and I think also of something having to do with the present moment or with the specific moment. We would never say she had a very glad life, for example. We would say she had a happy life.
Correct. Yeah. So that's another word, glad. And then your word, and I'd like for you to talk more about the word that you used, is also on my list. Pleased.
Yes, and that has I think a connection with perhaps feeling satisfied, certainly very positive feeling, very personal. Another one that could be similar might be I'm delighted to see you again, something like that. Some of those past tense or past participles that are actually adjectives as well.
Right, that's right. ED, yeah, you're right. The ED at the end.
Yes, delighted, overjoyed. Those convey a feeling of receiving something, I think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a kind of implied action there.
Right. So I'm happy to see you. I'm glad to see you. I'm delighted. It's a great word. When I think of delighted, I think of very cheerful. It's a mixture of happy and excited.
Yes, I agree. And maybe some sense of discovering something that you weren't expecting. Or, for example, yesterday I went to an art gallery because an artist friend of mine had opened a show, and I saw several pictures that I liked, but then I saw one that made me laugh out loud because I was so delighted. It was like a discovery, something I wasn't expecting, something that filled me with a feeling of joy and maybe even laughter. And that's how I would use the word delight.
Yeah, delight is interesting. I'm thinking of cheerful, humorous, surprised, a little surprised. When I think of excited feels very general, and it usually means lots of energy. There's something very energetic about excited.
Yes.
However, when I think of delighted, there's still energy, but not as much as excited. When I think of delighted, I just think of very positive, cheerful, surprise, humorous, but not as energetic as excited.
Right. I think excited, I'm excited to see you, we will say.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. There's a certain forward action. Whereas I'm delighted to see you means that you are already seeing the person. If you say, I'm excited to see you, it means you're anticipating it. It hasn't happened yet, most usually.
Yes. I think that you could describe excited, or you can use excited as anticipation, looking forward, and you can also use it to describe the feeling you're feeling right now as well, right? So if you come over, I could say, oh, Jane, I'm so excited to see you. So in that regard, I guess excited has two meanings, somewhat similar. So the first meaning of excited in your case could mean looking forward. Oh, I'm very excited to see this concert, right? So the concert is the music performance. The concert is maybe next Saturday, right? So it has not happened yet. So for your example, that makes 100% sense. I'm excited. I am anticipating having fun at the next concert. In my example, if you come to my house and I say, "Oh, Jane, I'm so excited to see you," it could mean both anticipation and I have so much to talk to you about. I am filled with so much energy right now, and I'm really happy to see you.
I think I do agree with you, and something I'd say is that if you said, "I'm so excited to see you," it would be just unusual enough from the usual way we have of communicating that it would wake me up more, because if it's actually happening, we usually say something different. But if you said, "I'm so excited to see you," and I'm standing right there, then I have a feeling of something that's higher energy, something that's a little different from the customary situation.
That's a good point. Would you? Right? So, yeah. So if I say, "I'm excited to see you," then you are probably expecting something from me. Why do I have so much energy? What does he want to tell me? So there's shared anticipation. Normally, if I say, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so delighted to see you," there's an understandable emotion. If I say, "I'm so excited to see you," I suppose that there might be a reason or cause behind that energy.
Yes, something different from just the ordinary pleasure of getting together and seeing each other. Mm-hmm. I would have the feeling that there's something a little exceptional happening.
Yeah. We talked about so happy, delighted, glad. We talked about pleasant and pleased, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. Cheerful is another word. So cheerful is another adjective, and I usually think of cheerful as very upbeat, very positive, very full of positive energy, and wants to share that energy, that positive energy, with other people. So for a perfect example, my baby son, 5 months old, is very cheerful. He loves to smile. He loves to laugh. He loves to play with other people, other kids. He's a very happy baby. I could also say he's a very cheerful baby, full of cheer.
Yes, and cheerful is usually used to describe exactly what you say, a feeling that carries over across time. It's not related to a specific event, like maybe excited would be. It's perhaps a personality trait or a state of feeling or being. Although we can say, "You sound cheerful today," or
"Yep,
he gave me a cheerful hello," we could certainly say something like that. But I wouldn't say I would never say, "Oh, I'm so cheerful to see you."
Correct. That's great. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would not say that. Like, "Oh, Jane, I'm so cheerful to," it's, so talking about time. So you're right. I cannot say my baby is an excited baby.
Right.
Because excited feels very temporary. The feeling is that energy is very big, very large, but also very temporary. Whereas cheerful, you're right. It's like a personality, a long-term, almost maybe permanent personality description.
I think so. Or at least, yes, it could be. I had a friend who was. She went between cheerful and grumpy. So she had sort of a double personality. But in any case, it does describe personality and a more long-term state.
Right.
A little bit like we could use the word she is very content with her life. We have that sense of satisfaction,
right,
of happiness. But again, it's long term. Again, I would probably not say, "Oh, I'm so content to see you." we wouldn't say that.
We would not. Yeah, and I could say that my baby is content, but that sounds a little weird. In that situation, it would mean that my baby is very satisfied. So I think of content as two words. One, as you said, satisfied, content with my life. I'm content with my choice. So, for example, voting, when we vote in an election, and we have to make a difficult decision on who we want to support, who we want to vote for, I could say, yeah, I'm content with my choice. I'm satisfied with my choice. I'm happy with my choice. We could say all three of those words. So in that regard, happy could mean also satisfied or content. So content means, so I like how happy is the base word, and then every other word we add to it, every other feeling, like long-term feeling, the amount of the feeling, the situation will change into another word. So in this case, happy plus satisfied equals content.
Right.
Right? Lots and lots of happy in a short amount of time means equals excited, right?
Exactly.
So I guess words and math actually can mix together.
Yes, I actually think they often do. That's a discovery that we make if we really study it, how there are additions and subtractions in math.
Yeah.
Maybe even, in language, maybe even multiplication.
Well, let's talk about that. For the remaining, Jane, you and I can talk about this topic easily for hours and feel very content. We can feel very content talking about,
and maybe even excited sometimes.
No, okay. So why would we feel excited? We would feel excited because we're talking about something that we really enjoy, and also maybe we feel excited because we're discovering new things about our language.
Exactly. Yes.
So we could talk about this topic for hours easily. You mentioned the word study. And for the remainder of this episode, I would like to talk a little bit about how do we expand our vocabulary so that we can learn new words and use new words so that we don't feel bored, the listeners don't feel bored, and people reading our essays don't feel bored. I'm curious, what did you do when you were learning French? What were the things that you did when you were learning French to expand your vocabulary?
As a student, I, of course, studied vocabulary lists, but in French, as in English, you might have two words which have approximately the same meaning, but they might have a different grammar. Like, I'm just looking right now at two synonyms. You could have, I enjoyed my time in Paris, or I reveled in being in Paris, or I reveled in the experience of being in Paris. In other words, you need different prepositions for things. So I actually just plain studied and did exercises. But that made my ear open for when I lived in France and was hearing things all the time. So when I heard a new expression, I knew, first of all, of course, the context was obvious, and I knew that must be a correct usage. Also, because I had been trained for so long with grammar exercises and just really normal study habits, I knew to look for not just the word, but how it was placed in the sentence. So listening was, I think, some study in order to understand the logic. But after that, read, and listen. Those are my 2 words of advice.
Yeah,
how
those
about
are
you?
Those are unavoidable, right? We have to invest the time and the effort to read and to listen. For me, reading is my weakest skill, so it takes more energy and effort to do it, and more motivation. It's hard. Listening is easier, but if you listen to conversation like ours, then you also have to invest the time to either listen again, or if you are listening live with somebody in person, then feeling comfortable asking that person for clarification. So, for example, if you don't know what a word means, then feeling comfortable asking that person to explain the word. So for me, when I was growing my vocabulary, I was very comfortable asking, oh, what does that mean? Or how do I use that word? And luckily, I had friends who were patient enough and who were glad to explain it to me. They were happy to explain it to me. And I felt very overjoyed. I felt very lucky. I felt very fortunate to have friends who could teach me new words in ways that helped me understand it more easily and more quickly.
I think that's crucial, not being afraid to ask. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. The spending time memorizing vocabulary lists is good. It has to come with using it in a real life example with people. For me, it's
very for everyone. I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's very difficult to learn 50 new words if you don't use them. I think that people like to learn new words, but they don't. They only stop at looking at the word and the definition. I challenge people to use 50 new words. Don't learn 50 new words. Use 50 new words. That
absolutely,
I think, will help people grow their vocabulary.
And never grab a word out of a thesaurus or a dictionary without using a thesaurus or dictionary that has a number of examples. Mm-hmm. You can make some really very funny mistakes by choosing the wrong synonym. People will laugh, not unkindly, but you will not accomplish the goal that you meant to reach.
Right. And one thing I know you and I agree on is, honestly, mistakes are okay. I mean, we're going to make lots of mistakes. I mean, that's how we're going to learn.
Yes.
So I agree. So there's many different ways to use a word. So you can use a word and you 100% know it's the correct word. You can use a new word and you might be wrong, but that's okay. I would say just do it anyway. And maybe someone will correct you. And if not, at some point, I think someone will correct you.
You hope so.
Yeah.
Or you'll hear it later and someone else will say it correctly and then you'll know you made the mistake.
Yeah. That's life.
Right. And, mistakes, I agree with you 100%. Mistakes are just fine. But if, for example, you're actually getting a grade or something.
Oh, right. In school. Yeah.
It's a little bit different situation. You want to, and you learn a lot from looking at a lot of possible different examples and saying, okay, that word looks like what I meant.
Right.
You don't want to grab just the first word in the list.
Correct.
Because that actually shows the teacher that you don't have very good judgment and that you don't ask the right questions.
That's lazy. That's being lazy.
Yes. Yeah. But no, I agree with you 100%. If you're around friendly people, go for it. Do whatever you can. Yes.
Around your friends. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think that we will continue to revisit these kinds of topics where we can explore different words and how to use them, and then use that as an opportunity to remind our listeners about the different ways that they can grow and expand their vocabulary.
Yes.
But yeah, at the end of the day, don't learn 50 new words, use 50 new words, be aggressive. I'm very much a fan of being aggressive. Today is Sunday morning, where you and I are. What are your plans for the rest of the day?
My plan is to spend most of the day correcting students' work because I haven't done anything for 2 days. How about you?
After this, I'm going to call my friend in Japan. We're going to talk a little bit about some business ideas. And then after that, I'm going to take another friend, a local friend, to drink wine. And then this afternoon, I think I also have to do some work for my technology company. After that, probably work out and spend time with my baby, and that's it.
Sounds good. Don't drink too much wine before you do your work, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Oh, always a pleasure, Jane. And I look forward to our next conversation.
So do I. Have a nice day, Jesse.
You too. Thank you for listening to this episode of LPLE. Let's practice listening in English from Dialogue FM. Subscribe to LPLE on iTunes to hear the latest episodes, or listen to past episodes on our website, dialogue.fm. That's dialog.fm. If you have questions or comments about English, or if you would like for us to use a word, grammar, or idiom in our conversation so you can learn how to use it correctly, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at dialogue.fm or Facebook at facebook.com/dialoguefm.